In this video, we are going to go through order of operations. We're going to have all sorts of numbers, all kind of multiplied, divided, added, positives, negatives, all sorts of things. So to do that, we have to know our order of operations. So there's a couple different versions of them. They all get the same result. They all mean the same thing. It's just how you describe them. So what everybody's most probably familiar with is Pemdas. So it represents we got to take care of anything within parentheses first, and then look to see if there's any exponents that we need to take care of. And then we look for multiplying or dividing. We go left to right on that. So it's not like multiplying always happens before division, vice versa. And then the last thing we should be looking to do is adding and subtracting, and that'll also be from left to right. Another version of that is GERDMAS instead of PEMDAS. GERDMAS, that parentheses is called grouping. And then is exponents or radicals, which is also kind of part of this. We just don't ever really mention radicals within this. And then, so radicals are like square roots, cube roots, fourth roots. And then multiplying and dividing, again, the order doesn't matter to that. It's just going to go left to right. So it doesn't, that's why division could be in front of multiplication, or multiplication could be in front of division. It just depends on the problem. And then last thing again is adding and subtracting. So regardless of which of these things that you use, it's still going to do your order of operations for you. So, kind of let me start walking through these problems. So if we have this value right here, we're going to take 8, and then this 4 minus 6 is, that's our parentheses. So we're going to take care of anything we can within parentheses first. So 4 minus 6, I don't love trying to figure that out. I take, in anything that I have subtraction, I add the opposite. So I add the opposite. To me, that works easier in my head. So now I have negative 6 and a 4 going together. I have more negatives by 2. So negative 2. And then I still have this multiplication of 8 that I need to take care of. And so that 8 times negative 2, positive times a negative is going to be a negative, and then 8 times 2 is 16. Okay, so that's what I'm shooting for in each problem. So some problems are longer than others. So if I take a look at this problem, I'm going to do division, because that division comes first. So I have a negative 12 divided by a negative 3. And that a negative times a negative divided by a positive is a negative. So that's negative 4. And then I'll drop down everything else. Minus 2 times negative 5. Okay, so I'm not going to do the subtraction yet because I still have a multiplication piece that I need to take care of. So a 2 times negative 5 is a negative 10. So that's a negative 4 minus a negative 10. I don't love subtraction, so I'm going to add the opposite. Now I have more positives than negatives by 6. So my final answer is going to be 6. All right, moving along. So I have these fraction problems, and if you remember, fraction are division problems. So I have a division problem, and a multiplication problem. Okay, so to be honest, since they're separated by pluses and minuses, which will be the last thing we take care of, we can simultaneously do all 3 of them. But before I do that, let me take care of the top here so I can then divide it by 2, and let me take care of the bottom so then I can divide it into the 9. So 3 minus 5. If I add the opposite, I have 2 more negatives than I do positives on that. So that's going to turn into a negative 2 over 2 minus, and then 2 plus 1 is 3, so 9 divided by 3. And then we'll take care of now all the multiplying and dividing stuff. Okay, again, only because it's separated by pluses and minuses. So we got negative 2 divided by 2 is going to be a negative 1. Minus 9 divided by 3 is 3, plus 4 times 5 is 20. And then I don't like the subtraction, so I'm going to add the opposite. So negative 1 plus negative 3 is a negative 4 plus 20. I have more positives than I do negatives, so that's going to be 16 in the end. All right, and then next one. We have multiplication that we need to take care of. So I have 10 minus 3 times negative 2 is negative 6, if you want to kind of separate it out. And then anytime I have subtraction, I add the opposite. So now it's 10 plus 6, which is 16. Okay, a couple more. So on E, we have parentheses that we need to take care of. So let's do that first. So we'll have a 5 plus a negative 2 cubed minus 3 times 4 plus 1 is going to get me 5. So we took care of our parentheses. Now we have exponents. So negative 2 to the third is a negative 2 times a negative 2 times a negative 2. And that gets us a negative 8. Okay, if you're throwing that into the calculator, please be careful with your parentheses. Parentheses may matter, so no matter what, you should get a negative 8 out of that. And I just put the parentheses in just to kind of separate these two signs. I don't have to have it in there, but just kind of cleaner feel for me. And then minus, and I can go ahead and put these two together as well. Okay, so again, I don't like the minus, so I'm going to add the opposite. So here's where you can just go straight across because it's all addition, or because it's addition, you can switch the order around a little bit, where I'm going to group the negatives together. So I'll have a 5 plus a negative, negative 8 and a negative 15 make negative 23. Okay, now I'm ready to put the negatives with the positives, and I have more negatives than I do positives by 18. So negative 18. All right, 2 more. Okay, so we got to go through everything on the top first. Here you got absolute value. Absolute value is like parentheses. So we want to do the operation inside of it, and then the absolute value is going to make, no matter what it is, it's going to make it positive. It doesn't make this plus, it makes the value afterwards positive. Okay, so let's do that piece first. So if you do 3 minus 7 is really 3 plus a negative 7, which is, I have more negatives than I do positives. So that's going to get me a negative 4 inside the absolute value, and then minus 3 cubed. All right, absolute value, and then in the bottom, let's see if we can do a little work on the bottom as well, since they're kind of separate. We're going to do our 3 minus 1 on the bottom because it's in with parentheses, and 3 minus 1 is 2. And then we'll drop down that 3, and they're going to multiply together on this next step. All right, so let's work on the top. The absolute value of negative 4 is positive 4. Absolute value makes everything positive. So then I can drop the absolute value bars because I've done the operation. So that's a positive 4. And then 3 cubed, I can go ahead and do that, is not 9 because it is 3. There's 3 3's multiplied together. So 3 times 3 times 3. So then that is 27. And on the bottom, I got 6 times 2, 3 times 2, which is 6. Okay, let's put together the top. We got a 5 plus 4, which is 9, minus a 27 over 6. I'm going to add the opposite. So I have more negatives than positives by 18. And 18 divided by 6 is negative 3. All right. You are welcome to try to throw that in the calculator, but it's probably going to be pretty difficult to do that and put it in correctly, and then you're hoping that it gets it right. So, I mean, it'll get it right if you type it in correctly because it's programmed to do order of operations perfectly. But you got to know how to type it in perfect. So that's kind of the risk to throwing it in a calculator. All right, last one. We're going to take care of this fraction, and then we're going to add 5 to it. So I'm going to do the top. We'll do the bottom, kind of separate at the same time. So 27 minus 3 is going to be 24. And then 2 times 6 is 12. We'll get that answer here in a second. So 24 divided by 12 is 2 plus the 5. It's going to equal 7. Sometimes they're a little nicer than, well, that one was obviously going to be a little rough just by looking at it. But all right, so that was order of operations with pretty much anything, right, other than decimals. But you got fractions, you got positives, negatives, you got exponents, you got absolute value, most things that can be thrown your way. All right, that's it.